Yo, 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 welcome to the show. Here we go for another review. All right, okay, it's been a while. It has been what they call in California a minute. It's been a minute. So here I am with a bright yellow cap, and this is not a fashion statement. I actually bought this hat because they started putting lights in the ceilings of cinemas, and they call them security lights. I don't know why. But I don't want to watch a movie in the cinema with tiny lights above my head, which are actually quite glaring. So I bought this hat to block the lights. I literally went into the cinema. I was like, baseball cap. And now, it has literally affected now the way that I dress. I'm currently stirring a cup of tea. Here we go. Anyway, what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about Piece by Piece, the Pharrell movie. Now, first of all, I want to say there are so many reviews I shoulda, coulda, really should have done, including Joker 2, which is a film I really want to talk about. And my opinion does not go along with everybody else's, as maybe you expected. But we're going to talk about Pharrell right now. Okay, Pharrell's Lego movie, Piece by Piece. Because it's a really good film. Okay, it's it's a beautiful looking film. And it's very much a beautiful film anyway. Like the heart of it and the soul of it is just top notch. Like I was sitting there thinking, hey, this is amazing. Like this is a really amazing film. Now let me go into a couple of the reasons why I like it. I guess I have a soft spot for not so much biopics, like a fictional story of somebody's life. Films like Walk the Line I like, but I don't think that I'm not drawn to them like this really has a significant impact on me. But when it comes to the documentary about a person's life, somebody who's achieved something very significant, that can always be immensely powerful, because to me what's really happening is the job of that kind of a film. Okay, I'm talking a documentary. The job of that kind of documentary is to teach an audience about someone who they perhaps have never heard of. So when it comes to somebody like Pharrell, you're obviously going to get a majority of people will come into the cinema who already know who he is. So they're already fans or likely fans. And then there's a whole other breed of the audience who are going to be people who just want to watch a movie. And in this case, just want to watch a Lego movie. And what the film then does for them is it introduces them to somebody, and therefore introduces them to this person's life and their body of work. Now, as a child, I remember seeing the documentary Kurt and Courtney, finding it on a VHS, and it seemed really like this weird bootleg thing recorded off TV, and it was a phenomenal thing for me to discover, because at the time, pre-internet, it wasn't that easy to get hold of the music the documentary talked about. So that's a different documentary, but that's a documentary about Kurt Cobain and his tragic death. And Kurt Cobain, if you don't know, was the lead singer-songwriter of a band called Nirvana, who were the biggest band in the run-up to, say, like 1994. Is about right. And anyway, as a young child discovering that documentary before actually hearing the albums, what it did is it made me go, oh my God, like now I know the man and the soul, and I understand that these aren't pop songs. There's a life story behind each piece of music. And that meant whenever I heard anything, because I was trying to, it all had more significance, as opposed to just being something you hear on the radio or you think, hey, that's really cool. Suddenly it was like, oh, no, this is, every song is a chapter in the diary of this person's life. Essentially, every song they write is like an entrance into a diary that they write musically instead of in words. And any kind of film like that always kind of pulls at me. Even if it's not a very good film, I'm quite drawn into it, because if I don't know the person very well, I suddenly feel like they've opened up this like buffet of things I now want to discover and try and taste. And this is another one of those kinds of films. But the thing that's particularly interesting about it is that it's a Lego movie. Okay, and it's not a gimmick that it's a Lego movie. It's actually so clever on so many levels. And one thing is that I feel like, isn't it funny when people say I feel like, as opposed to it being a fact. We'll try to stick with facts. So one of the reasons it's very interesting and clever is oftentimes those kinds of documentaries tend to be aimed at either an adult crowd or a young adult crowd. Okay, they tend to be like cinema documentaries or late night documentaries about a certain artist's life, but they're not aimed at children. And I tend to find children are the predominant, or they're kind of the best audience for those kinds of films, because children are the ones looking for role models and people to aspire to, and people who make them think, oh, I can have a dream and I can pursue the dream and I can achieve the dream, and and that's more useful in a way to show that to children than to and there's not that it shouldn't be for adults, but it's just, I'm just saying, why cut children out of that demographic of audience? Why not have both the adult and the young crowd as well? So this film is very much like the kind of documentary that you would get made for adults or young adults, but then it's done in a child friendly way, which is actually immensely powerful and really immensely smart. And it's like, well, obviously music is that universal language that appeals to everybody of all ages, so long as you like the music that you hear. And so why shouldn't the story as well? And to me, that was extremely beautifully put across and so professional and stylized in such a phenomenal way. The animators are so good. I will add, in the first like 30 seconds, the frame rate is terrible. Like when it started, I thought, oh my god, I'm gonna have to leave this movie if it carries on like this. I don't know why. Don't know why it has such a terrible frame rate to begin with, but it very quickly corrects itself, and it was excellent. Now, another thing, another little, if not large, elaborate point array. Okay, elaborate point. Something else about the movie that I found quite intriguing is it's touched upon very early that Pharrell, the musician, songwriter, composer, any word you want to attribute to that medium or art. Again, art's such a broad word. It's difficult, isn't it? You should say musician, songwriter. But anyway, because what is an artist? I mean, it's such a bizarre word. Like, there are so many people who are like, oh, I sing, I'm an artist. Oh, I paint, I'm an artist. Oh, I sculpt things, I'm an artist. So it's difficult. If I say artist, you don't know that I mean songwriter or anything. So anyway, I'm just saying, Pharrell, the songwriter, composer, mixer, whatever. He talks about how he feels like all art really, or at least in his medium, all of it is like Lego anyway, because it's taking things that already exist and then making something new out of it. Now, this is an old adage when it comes to art in general. Of course, every art is essentially, I'm not going to say it's like Lego, but it is a case of taking things that pre-exist and creating something new out of it. Just like making food, okay? I've said this before. If you were to say, make a film, all the films you've ever seen are your ingredients, and all of your life experiences are your ingredients, and you put them all together and you tell a story that you want to tell, and it's like you're making a meal out of pre-existing ingredients, but what comes out is yours and it's different. And they're using Lego as that analogy, that same analogy. And I thought it was particularly amusing in a way when it comes to this kind of style of music, because he's referencing people like Jay-Z and Snoop Dogg, who are obviously significant characters in the story, because they are shoulder to shoulder with him in the music business and the production of the tracks. But a lot of the kind of music they're doing is sampling. So sampling is very similar to Lego, if you look at it like that, because as opposed to a group of musicians sitting around with a guitar and a bass and some drums, they're quite literally taking pre-existing music and going, well, let's just take that 5 seconds. If you listen to like Dr. Dre, he does that or did that all the time. Even when it comes to like him working with other artists, i.e. Eminem being the most famous. Eminem's breakout hit, My Name Is, that beat is from a 70s track, and Dre just took that like 6 seconds and just looped it. Now, he adds layers to it, but it's not dissimilar to Lego because it's just going, I'm going to take that block and put it here, and I'm going to use it again and again and again, as opposed to it being totally from scratch. So to tell the movie in a Lego fashion was not just like, hey, here's a funny way of doing this, or hey, here's a clever way to maybe like make it stand out and make more money. It really was like, it's told with Lego characters for a few reasons, and one of them is to make something clear, which is all children, without thinking, will take pre-existing blocks and make something new out of it. And Pharrell's going, well, that's what I've done my whole life, and that's what everyone can do, and maybe they forget that they can do it. And obviously there was a lot of nods to that in the original Lego movie as well, but it's interesting to see it in a true story documentary based on a real guy, told in a fictional kind of a way. And I just thought it was beautiful because I've never seen anything quite like it. It's a really, really like nice, touching movie. I did feel like it's obviously missing a certain grit, and it's missing probably a lot of kind of the difficulties that were there in the true story. But an interesting comparison is, while watching it, I was thinking, even though it's got a unique modern spin on it, it reminds me of the time, I suppose, from like the 40s to the 90s, when Hollywood was a kind of glitz and glamour business when it comes to the way in which people consumed it, and the music industry the same. It's like the magazines tended to gloss up the superstars. They tended to celebrate them, and they tended to make like package the entire business as something to be celebrated. And even though like real lives happened and difficult real life situations happened, that wasn't really the number one material that people looked for or consumed. In the last 20 years or so, it's kind of gone the other way, and everything's become reality TV style, to the point where it's almost like they've Curb Your Enthusiasm the entire music business and Hollywood in a way. So the kind of information we absorb is usually like trying to show you how normal it all is underneath the glitz and glamour, which I mean, I guess it can be entertaining and interesting, but it was nice when it was sort of like, hey, there's an album coming out in 3 months, and it's really cool, and all these people work really hard on it, and you can look forward to it. And the same for every film, like, as opposed to going, what terrible dirt can we find on the lead actor? It was like, here's a movie that cost $25 million and 400 people worked their asses off for the past 8 months, and everyone worked really hard, and it's a gift that's going to be brought to your local cinema in the next 6 weeks. Why not get excited about it? So in that regard, they kind of took all the rawness and went, we don't need that. That's not going to help us. And this movie almost felt like a bit of a throwback to the sort of 90s and pre-90s way in which the music industry tended to be presented to the public, where it was sort of fashionable and brightly coloured. And it was just cool. It was a cool movie. Like I don't want you guys to think it's like the best movie I've ever seen, because it's not that kind of an experience, but it was different and it was really cool. I did think when it came to Pharrell, as a personal thing, like I was sort of thinking when everyone would lose their minds over his music, me personally, I was thinking I like a lot of Pharrell. I think some of his stuff is really cool, but I don't think any of it would initially make me go, whoa, what is that? Oh my God. Oh, gee. Like the stuff he's influenced by, like Stevie Wonder, that has that effect on me. And even the Jackson 5 has that effect on me. And some of the other stuff that is referenced, I'm like, oh yeah, that has that effect on me. But Pharrell, I'm kind of thinking like not all these beats are that good. I remember when he first partnered up with No Doubt, and I was thinking at the time like these beats could be a bit better. Like they're not quite the sort of way in which 80s kind of stuff that used to do similar things. Who's that guy? I was listening to him the other day. I can't remember. There's somebody Eddie Murphy references in Eddie Murphy Delirious. He references a certain series of pop stars from the 80s, and if you go and listen to it, just the sound mix is really top stuff. And anyway, I was thinking it's interesting that Pharrell tapped into something which made him such a unique success, and maybe I'm not the one who fully understands it, but I'll tell you one thing that I did think was really interesting about the movie as well is I remember meeting a guy who was a songwriter. I'm a songwriter as well. Believe it or not, I've written songs all the time, years of written songs. So I like to meet other songwriters too. And this guy really interested me because he was fascinated with the people who write the pop songs but don't get a great deal of credit for it. So he would say to me the name of a songwriter who I'd never heard of, because I'm listening to people who I suppose have their name on the album, and he named me like 7 different pop groups and 7 different songs, all written by some guy who's like 46 with a beard, but he's written these 7 songs for like 7 girl bands, So in that regard, he was like, but you can hear that guy's life story in, all these other people he's selling his songs to. And this movie shows you how Pharrell did a very similar thing, how he's writing songs for Jay-Z and Britney Spears and whoever, right? And it's like, oh, cool. Like, so this is all this one dude. That was a really, really cool little addition. And there was one other thing that I wanted to say about it, but it has slipped from my mind. And seeing that I do this without editing, this is live, like live and kicking, baby. This is, all right, can I think of what it was? Something about Pharrell and his music and the way in which he composed. Oh yeah, this is it. This is the last thing. I do think Pharrell, his stuff is a bit like, sounds like a weird comparison, but like the Seinfeld of pop music. And I say that because Seinfeld is a comedian, but he's kind of safe. Comedy is not necessarily safe, okay? In fact, generally the most famous stuff is not. It has something to say. But Seinfeld is sort of like adults and kids can watch it, and it's not massively controversial. It's more like saying, hey, look at all the things we as humans have in common. I spoke to a comedian once who said to me that other comedians he knew thought of Seinfeld as like safe humor, which is not in any way a criticism. It's probably rather difficult to actually do that well, and or do it successfully. And Pharrell is interesting because the people he's teaming up with often fall into the sort of like, okay, this could be controversial. This can start, a backlash, like when it comes to like hip hop and gangster rap and rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. And yet he sort of manages to swim between all of that and make this music that's safe and yet taps into every market and everybody finds something he's done that they like. So it's almost like the Seinfeld of music. And I sort of think that's... there's one thing I don't want to give away in case you don't know it, but there's one little jingle he did for a certain TV commercial, and when you see it, you're going to be like, oh my God, he did that? And I almost think that kind of sums him up, that it's this thing that everybody knows, and it's just safe enough that everybody is probably going to hum it for the rest of their life. Anyway, that's it. It's a really good movie, and it's got a really interesting poster. If you pay attention to the poster, it's just like a gold piece getting bigger, and then the gold turns into a gold man, a gold Pharrell, and then it becomes just Pharrell in normal clothes. And I think that's a nice little metaphor for the whole thing anyway, which is like, I got better, and then in the end I became me, which is a cool little poster design. Anyway, that is that. I'm me, you're you, and this video was coming all the way from Detroit, yo. I didn't even think about the fact I put that on this morning. Yeah, what's up, Detroit? Okay, guys, all right, take care, be well, take care of yourselves, and take care of someone else. All right, see you guys. Bye, bye.